Okay, welcome back to my channel, that is. I'm Deeb, your host. Welcome to Bland Gaming, the most boring and technically inept show on the internet. I am actually happy to announce that I'm still technically inept. However, my wife, since I am now months away from retirement, and my wife has gotten me some birthday gifts to help make my channel less technically inept. I noticed in the last video I had, the audio on my phone was like absolutely terrible. So she got me this microphone. I did a test run on it this morning, and it seems to be, it plugs right into your phone, and then it just kind of plugs on your, on today's case, it's hanging from my drawstring on my hoodie here, just like Indiana Jones would be hanging, from his whip and everything, which brings me to, I'm not going to say and everything, and I'm not going to say and whatnot. All you little trolls out there waiting for me to do it, I'm not going to do it. Not today. Every time I do, I think I am going to invest in a dog collar, like a shock type collar, and see about, we'll see about giving myself a mild electric shock every time I do that. Maybe I'll do a live stream one time, and every time I say and everything and whatnot, I'll allow the live audience to give me a mild electric shock, and perhaps we can break me of those little verbal quirks that I have. Anyhow, my wife is desperately trying, and then I also have a handheld device, so hopefully the camera is not going to shake. Eventually what I would like to do is get one of those types of cameras that kind of would come over the top so that it points straight down, maybe even has a light on it. Something even just to hold my phone is just fine. But I've seen people have them online. You know what? Viewers of mine, almost 1,000 of you, hey, if you are familiar with that kind of stuff, if you're a YouTuber yourself, and you know where one is, post a link in the comments section here. I'd love to hear from it. Heck, you know what? Let's do this. So I have this extra Vason Great Britain. It was slightly defective. It just had a little divot in the corner, and I held a contest trying to give it away for free to my viewers, and what wound up happening was the person who I had selected to win it lives over in Europe. He lives overseas. I'm in the West Coast United States. It would have cost me over $100 American to send it to this individual, and he was so cool about it. I should have said, hey, I'll mail it to the continental United States, maybe even Canada, but getting it overseas, it didn't make much sense to send a $40 supplement and pay $100 to send it over there. I mean, I would totally pay to gift my viewers if you lived somewhere reasonable, but everything's gotten so expensive, and it was like $120 American. So, but I digress. So let's do this. If you give me a link, if you live within the continental United States or reasonable shipping, and you give me a suggestion for a top look down type camera link, and if you want it, and if I choose your product and buy it and it works, then I will ship you this extra copy of the Vason Great Britain expansion Kickstarter that I got from Free League, and I'd be happy to send it to you. It's only slightly damaged. They sent me a new one. Like I said, it's a small divot that's like right in the edge of the book. Not this book, of course, but in the other book. But anyway, hey, let's get to, some people don't give two flying dams about my channel, and I'm sitting here blathering on. You guys are here to talk about Broken Compass. So, the reason why I chose Broken Compass for my next Bland Gaming review is I'm actually running this with my group right now, so I'm pretty intimate with the system, and I've got pretty good knowledge of the way that the system works. First things first, though, it's Bland Gaming. It is Saturday, like right after lunch. I know some of you probably have no problems in shaking a martini at that time. For me, it's a little early for me, so Bland Gaming is this is about time for my second coffee of the day. So I usually have one with breakfast, and then for me, it's just super, super dark, thick coffee. I add just enough cream to change the color, and then I like 1 sugar in the raw. So let's talk about Broken Compass. What exactly is Broken Compass? So Broken Compass is a role-playing game that was originally designed by a company called Two Little Mice. Then they sold the rights to CMON, who currently owns the rights to Broken Compass. Broken Compass is a... it comes with the Adventure Journal, which is the basic rules book that you would purchase, is everything that you need in order to play a modern era kind of treasure hunting, epic. Oh my gosh, this is so funny. My mom is actually calling me on my phone right as we're going to go ahead and we're gonna keep it real at Bland Gaming. That's the second time that my mom has called. The whole reason why I have a Facebook page is so that my mom does not call me every day, and yet she still does. So if you have a mother or even a mother-in-law like that, go ahead and put that in the comments. I love my mom, but she has a tendency to call me a lot. She is kind of like the cross between the mother on the Goldbergs and the mother on Everybody Loves Raymond. That is my mom, and I adore her. She's where I get my very outgoing personality, for sure. But I digress. Let's talk a little bit more about Broken Compass. Again, if you're watching Bland Gaming, you know that there's going to be a child, a wife, or a mother, or a dog that is going to interrupt this video. And the way that I run the channel, I run it just so that, like, hey, I wish you were just kind of sitting here right in my office and we were both talking about this over a dark cup of coffee. And maybe a strudel. Anyway, so Broken Compass is very much like a Tomb Raider, kind of Uncharted type setting, where it involves swashbuckling type of adventuring. Most of it, it's treasure hunting, it's archaeology, it's that kind of thing. In the original book, in the Adventure Journal, this one has everything you need to run it in modern times. So this is your Uncharted, and this is your Tomb Raider type of setting. You can buy books which have other settings. I will talk about those as soon as we kind of talk about the rules here, really briefly. But this is out of the box. This is what you get, and this here, I mean, you can get it on Amazon or order it from CMON. I think I got mine on Amazon. It's like $40 or so. Anyway, so this was originally written by I think Two Little Mice is like a couple Italian guys, and then they have this artist. What is her name? That's it. Daniela Gubellini. I beg your pardon. I only speak German, so if I executed that, but these guys here, Riccardo Sirignano and Simone Formicola. They're two Italian guys that founded Two Little Mice, and they have written some. I mean, I am the biggest Free League fan ever, but Two Little Mice I've just recently discovered them. This is my first Two Little Mice game, and they have written some great stuff. I really like a lot of their games, and remind me to talk about Household. That is currently, I think there's a 5e edition that is on Kickstarter right now, or it just ended. And Household is such an incredible, they did an amazing job of world building. So in Broken Compass, this is very light, it's a very rules light setting. And in this setting, so you can see her artwork. It's like, I like Martin Greep from Free League, but this young lady is darn near a second as far as just the fantastic artwork. And as great as the art as you're going to see in this, her the artwork that she did on Household was amazing. Sells the game, just completely sells the world, sells the game. She did an amazing job. I'm a huge fan of her art. Okay, so in the world of Broken Compass, it is all about swashbuckling. It is about very, very rules light. It is very, very action oriented. It's about traps. It's about punching villains. It's about arch villains, and this does not have time to get bogged down by a lot of rules. So if you or your players are big rules, you want to count stats, you want skills that buff this, that buff this, this is not the game for you. This is a very fast moving, the combat moves very quickly. One of the complaints that I've had with some game systems I've played in the past is the minute that the guns or the swords come out, the game literally stops and it becomes a board game for like 3 hours, where you're playing a 3-hour board game that is depicting maybe a minute or 2 minutes worth of real-time action that is occurring. This one definitely leans towards the pulpy type feel of the movies. The other thing too, I don't know how they got away with it, and you'll see it more in some of the other books, but the artwork and the style is definite. It is not even shy about imitating our favorite movies. The Mummy, Indiana Jones, movies like that, and I think that is such a great strength to it. So this is a glimpse of the character sheet. It is extremely simple. So whether you're in combat or whether you're ducking out of the way of a gigantic plaster ball that's rolling down on you in Peru, you're going to use basic 6-sided dice. And in this game, so like if you are punching a Nazi, you're going to use your action skill and then you're going to use your fight skill. Each one of those represents a 6-sided die that you'll roll. If you are trying to jump out of the way of that gigantic rolling plaster ball that's coming down on you as you're trying to escape the Peruvian temple, you're going to use your action skill and then your stunt skill. And then driving, you just punch the Nazi in the face and you're taking control of the truck and you're trying to ram Belloc's little scout car, and he's got Colonel Dietrich in there. You're going to do guts and drive. And anyway, so these are the basic skills. And each one you're rolling a 6-sided dice. And certain equipment can also add other 6-sided dice. But unlike most games, like in the Free League games, you're looking for 6s. The thing that I like about this system a lot, which I think is kind of unique, is you are looking for sets. You are looking for pairs. When you roll the dice, it doesn't matter if it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or a 6, as long as you are getting matching pairs. And there's a really great mechanic here. So what the GM does, there's a pretty moderate skill list and talent list here. Expertises allow you to re-roll dice. I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting, I am very right-brained, so I do not explain rules too greatly, but let's give you the basic gist of how this works, because we're right in the character creation section here. You can randomize all of your things. Okay, so let's talk about your challenges. Challenges can be anything from crossing a rickety bridge to engaging and fighting a huge, gigantic German mechanic who's not wearing a shirt. Here we go. I love this mechanic here. Okay, so basically everything the GM will tell you ahead of time. Let's say that we are wanting to cross a rickety bridge across a bottomless chasm. So the GM decides right away if it is a basic challenge, a critical challenge, an extreme challenge, or an impossible challenge. And the way that works is any 2 matches that you have are going to be a basic challenge, a basic success, I should say. And any 3 matches are going to be a critical success, and any 4 matches is going to be an extreme success, and then 5, obviously, is going to be an impossible success. So what's pretty cool about this is, like, if we say that the rickety bridge is fairly solid, but maybe the wind's blowing it back and forth. So the GM would tell you, all right, well, hey, you are going to have a basic, it's going to be a basic success. So you would roll your dice, whatever appropriate stat the GM assigns to it, and he or she will designate that for you. And then no matter how many matches you get, that determines whether or not you succeed. Now let's say that the rickety bridge is actually 1,000 years old, and there's a chance that some of these some of the actual planks might break on you, so the GM may decide that it's a critical success, okay? Now let's say that there is a band of Jovitos on one side of the bridge shooting arrows at you as you're trying to run across the same rickety bridge, so the GM decides that it's an extreme success. Oh, but wait a minute, it's not Jovitos anymore. Let's say it's an entire squad of Germans with a deployed MG42, and they're firing this at you as you're trying to run across the bridge, and now it is now a impossible success. So what you'll do is you'll roll your dice, and there's several mechanics that allow you to add things to it. And then there's also things which can make it more difficult. So what you'll do is you'll roll your dice. There's other mechanics that allow you to re-roll as well, so that you're trying to get as many matches as possible. So if you fail on that challenge, then you'll take a certain amount of damage. And the thing that I absolutely love about the damage in this game is that you don't have hit points. You have what's called luck. And I think that is brilliant. Each character starts out with 10 luck, right? Because how many times, here we go. Oh no, these are feelings, and we'll talk about those a little bit. Again, I'm just trying to give you a basic overview. Okay, here we go. So, and it's got some good examples. Hang on, bear with me. Here we go. Okay, I love this. Okay, so let's say that the game itself is designed to fail forward. Okay, so you're not supposed to. It should be almost. I'm the kind of guy where I like darkness, and I kind of dissuade away from slapstick and from humor, but this game is the exception for me. So let's say that you are crossing that rickety bridge and you fail your roll somehow. You're maybe only rolling 3 dice and you get 3 individual and you don't. So all you do is you lose 1 luck point. Now what the way that the GM would describe that, this is kind of like it's kind of a collaborative storytelling between you and your players, which is another thing I absolutely love about this system. So you talk to each other and say, all right, well, what does that look like? You know, losing 1 out of 10 luck points, that might just be them slipping. Slipping, but then regaining themselves, right? The critical danger, okay, let's say that we had it and the planks, remember I was talking about that, we have that same rope bridge, but the planks are rotting. So what that would mean is that, okay, you failed it. While in other games you may, like let's talk about that other game, the D and the D, okay? If you failed that roll, you would plunge and you would take a certain amount of damage. But in this system, you don't fall, you fail forward. And what that means is that the board snaps out from underneath you, but you manage to catch on at the very last minute with your feet dangling, and you have to call out for help to your other players. You take 3 luck points, and so you lose 3 luck. So you're not taking damage per se, you're running out of luck. And when your luck finally does run out, when you get to 0 luck points, there is a possibility that you can die, but you'll have like these, there's these coins that you can flip at the last minute to see if you're able to survive or if you actually do die. But the whole system itself is designed so that you fall forward. So even when you're engaging in fights and you're losing luck points, what you're doing is that, maybe you're getting punched in the face. Maybe maybe that bullet that, that bullet, like, it was a good hit, and maybe that person who just shot at you just did 9 luck points. The GM could interpret that as, well, hey, the way I see it, maybe a bullet like shoots his hat right off of his head but doesn't hurt him, and that could be the way that you could interpret that. I really enjoy the way that they've done that. There are certain feelings that your characters can get. You can feel bad, you can feel good, and the feelings that are bad will give you what's called disadvantages, which means that it'll subtract a dice from your roll, and the good feelings will add they will have advantages which add dice to your roll. And then also some certain gear can add advantages to your roll. For instance, if you're using a rifle and you're shooting at someone, you would roll your shoot skill, and then you would add maybe 1 if it's a regular rifle. If it's a deployed machine gun, then maybe you would add 2. And you would roll to see what you would get with that. The thing that's kind of cool also about the system is it really encourages going in hand-to-hand and punching and hitting and engaging in slugfest. And the reason why that's really cool is because you can defeat your enemies. It does the exact same damage if you're facing and it encourages your characters to be theatrical, and it encourages them to talk about, like, rather than just pull out their gun, which would do the most amount of damage. Let's say they're on a train that's going through Vienna, and they're in a fight in the dining car. If you're playing Dungeons and Dragons 5e, they're going to look at what weapon do I have that does the most damage, and then we'll go ahead and do that. But in this game, what's great is it doesn't matter what you're using, you're going to do the same amount of damage to the enemies. So why not be theatrical about it? Why not grab a serving tray off of the nearby bar and smack the guy in the face with it? It's going to result in the same kind of thing. If you're using weapon, the only difference is the final outcome. If you're using weapons like knives, guns, spears, arrows, that kind of thing, then it's going to result in the death of the person that you're fighting with. If you're just going slugfest, kicking, punching, that kind of thing, really you get to kind of decide almost. It doesn't mean that you can't kill them. It means that you and the GM kind of have a collaborative storytelling, which determines whether or not the individual is going to die at the end of it. It certainly could happen. You're on the moving train, maybe you're fighting a Nazi, and you punch him, and he falls backwards out the window and then falls off of the train. You could certainly do that. Or, you could be kicking him in the groin and then kneeing him to the face, and then he's unconscious, and you move on to the next one. And because of that, the combats in the game work very fluid, very dynamic, very colorful, and the thing that I have really enjoyed about this game is when I'm playing with my players, I say, what if this happens? And my players will like, yes, and then this, and then we're kind of going on top of it, and then I go, that's great, okay, so this is what happens, and then all of us will kind of get a good laugh out of it, and it has been a tremendous amount of fun. I will tell you that two of my players that are both GMs, and they are both rules guys. They both kind of like numbers. They have excelled tremendously in the narrative portion of this, but I kind of get the feeling, and you know what? I shouldn't talk about them like this because I know those guys watch my channel, and yes, I'm talking about you two guys, Fishsticks and Aardvark. I kind of get the feeling that they would like to have something a little bit more crunchy with the rules, but I don't know. Again, they are both, because they're both GMs themselves, they are having a blast with being able to co-GM, so to speak, the fights and the narrative portion of the game. It really allows the characters to step up and take a narrative part of the game, which is really cool. There's a lot of emphasis on the tasks. They call it dangers. See, look at this artwork. She has done just such an amazing job. So it's very cool. But they have had a really good time with the narrative portion of it, and they are very easy people to GM. But I just get the feeling from both of those guys that they need a little bit more rules in their games, a little bit more tactical stuff. Because this is a game that you don't even need miniatures. With this game, you don't need. There's not a lot going on. It's kind of, you're rolling the same challenges every time, and because of that, this system is extremely streamlined. Oh, and this is kind of cool. It gives you, the game here. It gives you some ideas for different treasures that the characters could be going after. And the other thing too is a lot of this game is very basic and very narrative. So if you are a brand new GM, you're actually going to have a harder time with this game because it gives you a basic framework, but you're kind of in charge of writing the scenario, of making up what the threats will be, finding, and I'll get into that because my group is actually playing this is for modern age, but my group is actually playing in 1937 Shanghai. So that's what you get out of this book. And then what you get is there's a number of them. I think there's 4 or 5 world books, but I have 3 that I've gone and picked up, and we've been playing 1. So the Golden Age really is exactly that. Is your Mummy and your Indiana Jones type of setting. This is 1930s. It doesn't really go into World War II yet, so you don't have anything like a Pulp Cthulhu going on in this setting. but it is kind of the classic late 20s, early 30s age. I will say that this book here, so what this book gives you, you need the original book in order to play this book. This book gives you some very setting-specific skills and some setting. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is so great. They I don't know how they got away with this because lawyers, right? But you know, that is so clearly Indiana Jones. And they use the typography to the Indiana Jones movies, and I love that they're able to do that and get away with it. They're not even ashamed about it. So in this one, it kind of talks. There's a lot of theme in this source book. It talks about very basic themes about it. More great. Look at that. That is like a female Indiana Jones punching a Nazi. How cool is that? I love it. Anyway, they are talking about what kind of a setting it is, but so in that sense, it covers a broad sense. There's some new skills that pop up in this. There are some new feelings, the good feelings, bad feelings, that kind of thing. There's some new treasures that kind of pop up. But the one thing that I thought was kind of missing in this, there's one page that talks about Nazis, right? And they say, well, the Nazis are the bad guys. And hey, by the way, the Russians could be the bad guys too, and everything. But they don't talk about, for instance, who is, like, there's one page that covers all of it, and they don't talk about things like, who's Hermann Goering? What role does the SS have at this time in history? What year did Hitler come to power? These are important things, little attention to details that I as a GM would really like to see. Like if I look at things like Delta Green or Call of Cthulhu, for instance, boy, those guys really, there's so much history in those books, the source books that they have. And it really helps you to get your believabilities, and you're not seeing that in this setting as much. This setting is more about theme and feeling and very basic type of stuff, but it does not contain very detailed maps. Like I want to see a map of what does a 1920s ocean liner look like? What does a 1930s passenger plane look like? What about the Zeppelin? That kind of thing. I want to see that kind of stuff in here, even though it may not, because the rules are so basic, it doesn't really say anything in here about their stats or anything, but I would still like to see, hey, what does a telegram look like at that time? And again, in some of this game's competitors, and again, Call of Cthulhu is the big one that comes to mind, there's definitely a lot more historical detail in those books. Does that mean that this is a complete fail? Absolutely not. It's a wonderful game. My players are loving it right now. It just means that you as a GM, I find myself really having to work. For instance, the current game that we are playing right now, they are a group of players that are looking for the tomb of the first emperor of China. And I am having to learn so much about Chinese history just by, and it all takes place in 1937 during the Japanese occupation of China. And I am learning about which cities were captured, which cities weren't, where was the Japanese army, and then I actually did a whole bunch of research on which factions were fighting for control of China at that time. Where would the emperor's tomb be located? Where's the largest library in China? That was something that I looked up and had to learn. So I had to do a lot of this work on my own. The good news is that once I figured it out, once I found it out, I was able to just take very basic notes. But just getting all the different names, and there are things like, at this time you've got the Italians, you've got the Russians, you've got the Germans, Japan is on the rise. There's a lot of great potential antagonists, and I would have liked to have seen more detail on their organization and on how you can integrate them into your game. There's a section, this game here, there is a small section in the original book that talks about the supernatural, but this game here really kind of dives into it a little more about like the mummies and the Ark of the Covenant, and there's some basic fear mechanics that are in this game. They work for what we're trying to do here. So there's some good stuff in there, but it just feels like there could have been so much more to this game here. To the book here. It seems like as a source book, it's very bare bones and not hyper detailed. And part of that's my own bias. I am very much a history guy, so I really liked, again, if you really want to see some a system that really takes advantage of the time period and gets really good info out there that gives you a map of what a Zeppelin looks like, or even like the like a street map of London or Boston in 1928. Call of Cthulhu has some tremendous attention to detail in their supplements and in their basic books and stuff. And you're not going to see that kind of stuff here. This is a completely different game. This is more, you're going to have to do that kind of legwork on your own. But on the same note, this is much more pulpy, casual, and rules light. So anyway, this book, if you want to run an Indiana Jones type game, you need the basic book, then you need this book here. Then two of the other world books that I have not run yet. The Jolly Roger. Again, this is like running pirates in a historical setting, like the Mediterranean type setting. There's rules for ships, there's rules for swashbuckling, but they're very basic. This, much like the Golden Age book, has a lot of kind of flavor, a lot of gravy, but there's not a lot of meat and potatoes in this. And what I mean is that we don't have a detailed political situation about what's going on with the English, the Dutch, the French at that time, the piracy that's been going on. And there's a lot in here about, like, say, the pirate code, and, you know, there's a lot of stuff in here about how pirates live, that kind of thing. But you don't just see the, a map of the different levels in, a ship of the line would have been really kind of cool to see in this. There's some fun skills that are very specific to the pirate setting, but again, I'd say it's okay. It's really okay, but there's a lot of work that you're going to have to do. I almost feel like if you wanted to run a really good pirate setting, if you want to run a really good pirate game, if you can get into the setting, the Conan the Pirate setting by Modiphius, the 2D20, I almost preferred that. That was really, and it's funny because that's actually a thinner book than this, but that one had so much detail on running pirate games and pirate campaigns. Now, granted, that's in the age of Conan, where this is a pre-gunpowder stage, but it really captures the feel of the book. And my players, I ran several pirate campaigns in the Conan world, and they absolutely loved it. So the other book that I have is, I've got the Voyages Extraordinaires, and this is your H.G. Wells, Jules Verne type of setting in this game here. I have not run this one yet. I really liked, there was an old book that came out originally by Games Designers Workshop called Space 1889, and I just thought that was really cool. So I love the Victorian age. This definitely, upon reading this book, it's got a very steampunk kind of mad scientist / Victorian era of exploration and wonder. There's some crazy science that goes into the game here, and a lot of Lost Worlds kind of feel to this setting here. Crazy expeditions, that kind of thing. And again, it's all set. This game takes place in late 19th century, so you're talking about the 1870s, 1880s, right in the rise of Victorian Britain. So this is again pretty cool, but it, much like its other predecessor, we have a lot of gravy in it, a lot of almost journalistic type of telling where it's telling a story, but then there's not a whole bunch of attention to detail in, say, some of the other games that I've played or some of their competitors. The only other thing that I have that I wanted to talk about with Broken Compass is I did buy the accessory kit. And the reason why I bought the accessory kit is because some of you who've watched my channel, you know I absolutely love the DM screens. And so I bought this because it has the DM screen. So this is kind of interesting. Oh, the other thing too about this game, something I didn't really mention, is that the GM does not roll any dice. The entire game, the players are rolling constantly, whether it is reaction to the bad guys if they're being attacked, or whether it is them trying to hit the bad guys or overcome obstacles themselves. So that's kind of a neat mechanic. I don't have to roll a single die the entire time I play. So you have this piece of, you know, the actual book size is a little smaller than some of their competitors, but you've got this great piece of art that's on the front of it. And this, as far as its usefulness, is extremely useful. It has everything that you need in the book in order to run the game. I don't have to open the book one iota the whole time that I'm playing. I've just used this. Everything that I need is in this, and part of that is because the system itself is so simple, but it's very, very cool. It makes Deeb very happy. There's a map of the world, which is really unremarkable. It's anything that you could just get off of, and this is more of the modern world, but it's it's okay. It's a basic kind of, there's a close-up of the Gulf of Mexico. Then it comes with these adventure passports, which really are more for your players. These are not for you. You give these, and these actually basically, these are for the players to write notes in about their character. And I think it only comes with 4, and I play with 5 players. There's 4 of those, and then it comes with the custom dice. These are your basic 6-sided dice, but just instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you've got symbols that you're trying to match. And since you as the GM don't roll dice, really you can just pass those on to your players and let your players use those. So anyway, so that is Broken Compass. Do I recommend Broken Compass? Yes, absolutely, 100%. I absolutely love this system. As a matter of fact, this was my first game, and then I went out and bought 2 more games made by Two Little Mice because I liked this game so much. But I admittedly have a bias in the sense that I enjoy rules-light games, narrative games. I am not a big sandboxer, heavy-duty rules. I enjoy epic storytelling type games. And so this game was made for my style of GMing. Very little rules and high narrative storytelling, both for the players and for the GM. I think it's just a hoot. The upside, that is the upside. Beautiful art. It's actually pretty entertaining to read. It almost reads like it's a journal when you're reading the rule books, like someone is writing it. And it's very entertaining. The artwork is fantastic. It's really good, but it's not as good as the artwork in Household. So this artist did an amazing job, but I think that she really hit the pinnacle of her career when she illustrated Household. She just did amazing work. The downside of it is that it's not as detailed as some of the other games that are out there right now, some of their competitors. There's not as much detail in it. I also, because CMON has picked this up, and Two Little Mice, basically, my understanding is they sold the rights to this game to CMON. I don't know if CMON's going to be developing it any further than what they have here. Right now, Two Little Mice is working on their Household. There's the original Household, which uses a slightly more advanced version of these rules where you're having to roll dice and match your 6s. Then Household has recently, again, it came out on Kickstarter. I don't know if it is done yet or not, so check your Kickstarter if it's something you D&D fans out there. But Household has a 5e edition that has just been published, or not published yet, excuse me. It's just been laid down, and I think they're getting ready to get that out. Also, I did back a version of this system, a game called Outgunned, and that is a kind of a John Wick, True Lies, Beverly Hills Cop kind of setting where Ocean's 11, that kind of thing, to where it's almost like the over-the-top action type movie setting that takes place in the 80s, the 90s, whatever you want. I haven't gotten it yet. I backed it on Kickstarter. I went all in, and I cannot wait to read that one. I think that one's going to be a lot of fun. I think the way that I think I'm going to run that game is kind of like a John Wick, like that whole culture in there, in the whole assassins type culture. And there's an entire source book. I went all in, and there's an entire source book on the hired killers part of that setting. So I think that I expect to see good things from that. What's also really interesting is that Two Little Mice have announced that they, as part of their Outgunned line, they are including kind of like a pulpy age. I can't remember what it's called, but it's coming on to Kickstarter soon. A pulpy kind of 1930s, The Mummy, Indiana Jones type of book that's going to go with their Outgunned line. As a matter of fact, I contacted the creators and I said, hey, why are you doing this when the golden age is really what you've already got with Broken Compass? And my understanding is from his reply, and this was one of the writers that actually replied to me, that he said, well, yeah, we sold the rights to that to come on, so we really can't make any more material for that. So by springboarding a newer version off of Outgunned, they can continue to make material for it. So I'm pretty anxious to see. I like their writing style. I like what they've done. So I'm pretty anxious to see what they bring with Outgunned. So. Anyway, all right, so we're at over 40 minutes. We are way over what my marketing wife says we should have for these reviews, but I get a lot of messages from you guys saying that you will listen to podcasts, things like that, while you're painting or doing arts and crafts or clipping your toenails. I don't know, whatever you guys do when you're listening to me. I personally like really long videos to listen to myself because I use it when I'm painting when I'm working at my hobby table and I'm painting models and stuff like that. So I think I am going to lean towards longer videos. Anyway, this is Deeb, your host. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for those people who have subscribed. I really appreciate it. This is not going to be a job for me. If you want to subscribe to my channel, please subscribe. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy. If you want to leave a comment, I try to answer all my comments. I've got a few more months left in my career, and then I'm hoping on retiring, and I'll release a lot more content. I'm hoping on releasing stuff weekly. Seems like you guys like the role-playing games the most, so I think I'll focus most of my stuff on role-playing games. But if you do want to see a miniatures game reviewed or a board game, I have tons of those. Let me know. The only thing I have been dying down on is the video games. I don't play as many video games as I used to. I did get bit by the Helldivers bug, and I do like World of Warships. I play that quite a bit, but I play mostly the old people games because I'm not fast enough to play against 12-year-olds or 11-year-olds. So anyway, hey, this is Deeb, your host. Thank you for tuning in, and if you're in the mood for some great adventure, I got to tell you, Broken Compass is your thing. In the meantime, have fun, crack your whip, and if a guy approaches you carrying a large sword and swinging it, don't forget to pull the gun on your hip. Take care, and I'm out.